A history of violence snowballed into a series of violent murders committed by Shawn Grate, who now sits on death row. Here's how it all happened. Shawn Grate was born in a small Ohio community on August 8, 1976, the youngest child of Teresa McFarland and Terry Grate. Just days before his 6th birthday, his parents divorced and he went to live with his mother, according to documents released by the Ohio Supreme Court. In statements to the court made by Grate's elder sister Barbara Charter, it was revealed that Teresa had some serious issues. After becoming a mother at the age of 14, McFarland was married to the father of her baby, Edward Meadows, who was 7 years older than her. Charter stated that her mother was an alcoholic, but also a victim of serious abuse by Meadows. The couple soon divorced, and McFarland married Terry Grate soon after. Charter commented that Teresa was emotionally distant and disconnected from her children. She often disappeared on Fridays to party and usually didn't return to the family until the following Sunday night. Charter described her younger brother Shawn as a child who struggled with learning disabilities. He was an avid baseball player, but that came to an end at the age of 14 when it was discovered that he had a tumor in his throwing arm. After the surgery, he never played baseball again. Dr. John Fabian, the clinical psychologist who examined Grate, confirmed to the court that Grate had a difficult life at home and had fantasies about killing his mother when he was a child. When investigators began to unravel Shawn Grate's past, it became apparent that he had a long and violent history toward women.
He broke my hand, he had choked me, I had bruises down my face.
The Mansfield News-Journal reports that he was arrested at the age of 18 for choking his girlfriend. When he was 23, Grate was reported to have broken into the home and choked another young woman, a 17-year-old girlfriend of Grate, who was also pregnant at the time. Months later, he broke into her home again and held the girl and her sister captive with a butcher knife. The women escaped physically unharmed, but they told police that Grate had warned them, "If anyone comes to the door, there will not be anyone here to answer it, so you better hope that no one knocks at the door." When studying Grate's case, Tristan Kilgallen, an assistant professor of criminal justice at Ohio Northern University, noted that Grate's extensive and escalating criminal history was usually non-violent, unless his subjects were women. He went from choking one woman to choking and brandishing a knife at another. By 2003, Grate was reported to have sexually assaulted the mother of one of his 3 children as the intensity of his attacks grew. In 2010, he was also accused of severely physically assaulting another woman he was in a relationship with. Though he had committed multiple acts of violence against women, Shawn Grate only earned a single felony charge for one of those offenses. The Mansfield News-Journal reports that he was often jailed for his crimes, but only for short periods of time. Grate did have other felonies on his record, however. When he was 20, he and a juvenile offender were both arrested for felony burglary in 1996, serving only 7 months of a 4-year sentence. The 1999 incident in which he threatened his pregnant girlfriend with a knife led to a felony charge, and it was this charge that led to the revocation of his parole from the earlier burglary charge. He returned to prison to serve out the remainder of his 4-year sentence. It would be his longest time behind bars until he was caught for murder. Grate was freed from prison in 2003, and he would remain a free man until a chilling 911 call his last victim made in September 2016. Those who knew Grate over the years paint a picture of a mentally disturbed man. Investigation Discovery reports that Grate married Amber Bowman soon after the couple had begun dating in 2011. The now ex-spouse of Grate described him as a loving man who soon became controlling and violent. Though they shared a child, Bowman filed for divorce in 2012 and was granted a restraining order against her ex-husband. Court papers revealed that he messaged Bowman, "I am preparing for the grand final. If I can't see my daughter, then no one will." According to the Mansfield News-Journal, past associates of Grate alleged that he was lazy and manipulative, often taking advantage of those he could get close to or who were soft-hearted. Landlord Wally Toward claimed that he witnessed Grate attempting to talk several of his female tenants into letting him move in with them, telling the news outlet that Grate, quote, exploited kind people. A female friend of Grate's from the 1990s noted that his behavior became more erratic as he entered his 20s, noting that a friend of hers dated Grate but soon broke it off due to his mental issues. Teresa McFarland didn't hold back when she gave a 2016 interview to the Daily Mail, whose interview has been the only time the killer's mother has sat down with any media outlet. What she revealed about her son was chilling. She noted that her son was attractive, but also noted that the devil had that same quality, pointing out that though her son didn't have the horns or tail of the devil, it didn't exclude him from being in league with him. McFarland went on to say more, even comparing her son to other notorious serial murderers, stating, None of it makes sense, and there may be more. When people go on rages like that, you look at people like Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer, and you look at all the malfunctions of the brain, and it doesn't make sense, but it happens. The devil reigns. Though it would be revealed in court that Shawn Grate was a cold-blooded killer, he was free in 2016 when a 911 operator answered a shocking phone call.
Does he have a weapon? He's got a taser.
Cleveland 19 News reports that a woman phoned the emergency number and told the dispatcher that she had been kidnapped by Grate. Throughout the nearly 20-minute phone call, the victim revealed that her captor had tied her up in a vacant home that he had broken into. She had managed to wriggle free enough to make a call from Grate's phone. Adding to the risk was the fact that Grate was in the room with the victim throughout the call, asleep on the floor. In one terrifying moment during the call, Grate wakes up momentarily before falling back asleep. The victim had known Grate for over a month. On the day she was kidnapped by him, she met him at her apartment, and the two went for a walk back to the house he was occupying. According to Law and Crime, Grate and his victim were reading Bible verses when Grate abruptly told her that she could never leave. After a struggle, Grate overpowered her and sexually assaulted her. In her call to 911, she was able to lead police to the house where she was held captive. Police entered the home and arrested Grate without further harm to the victim.
Are there any other girls in the house right now?
When police arrived at the house Grate was occupying, they were met with the decomposing remains of two women whom Grate had murdered earlier. One woman was identified as 29-year-old Elizabeth Griffith of Ashland, Ohio, who had been reported missing a month earlier. The second body was revealed to be Stacy Stanley, a 43-year-old mother who had been reported missing a week before her body was found in the house. She was last seen changing a flat tire in the area. Though her vehicle was shortly found on another roadway in Ashland, there was no trace of the victim until investigators located her body. Prosecutors charged Grate with a total of 23 counts stemming from the murders of Griffith and Stanley, as well as the kidnapping and sexual assault of the Jane Doe that led police to his capture. 2 of those counts were enough for the state of Ohio to seek the death penalty against the defendant. If convicted on the majority of the charges, the state would be able to keep Grate behind bars for the remainder of his life. Prosecutors already had the ammunition to put Shawn Grate away until the end of his days. As it would turn out, there was more. Grate would make a jailhouse confession to 3 other murders to Cleveland 5 reporter Megan Hickey, who had asked for an interview via a letter. After his arrest, Grate had also told Marion County Sheriff Tim Bailey of other murders. In an in-person interview with Grate, Cleveland 19 News reporter Cassie Nist was able to confirm this confession of 5 murders. He told Nist that Dana Nicole Lowry had sold a magazine subscription to his mother, and when the magazine didn't arrive, he went looking for Lowry. When he found her, he coaxed her into his car with the promise that he'd buy magazines from her, where he murdered her. Her remains weren't found until 2007, 2 years after her murder, according to Cleveland 19 News. Grate's confession helped investigators identify the Jane Doe they discovered nearly a decade before his 2016 arrest. Grate also confessed to the murders of Candace Cunningham and Rebecca Lacey in that interview.
Because there's no reason for anybody to know exactly who that man is, because he's worthless.
Shawn Grate's motive could be noted as unique among his killer contemporaries. In letters that were sent to reporter Megan Hickey, Grate revealed that he had a moment of clarity, writing that he finally had, quote, a clear vision of why he needed to kill his victims. He went on to write that the women he murdered were on public assistance and that the government aid had taken the mind of each woman. They were already dead, just their bodies were flopping wherever it can flop, but their minds were already dead. The state took their minds once they started receiving their monthly checks. Grate admitted in his letters to Hickey that he had once been the recipient of government checks and seemed a bit bitter that his monthly amount was less than $200. He complained that one of his victims at one time was getting nearly 4 times that amount. To verify that the letters were really from him, Grate included a copy of his indictment and traced his left hand on one of the pages.
And Shawn Grate sentenced to death.
The families of Shawn Grate's victims received some justice on May 7, 2018, when an Ohio jury found the killer guilty on 8 counts. 2 counts of aggravated murder and 1 count of the kidnapping of Elizabeth Griffith, 2 counts of aggravated murder and 2 counts of kidnapping of Stacy Stanley, and 1 count of aggravated robbery of Stacy Stanley. Law and Crime reports that there were an additional 15 charges levied against Grate, and that he pled guilty to all of them during the trial. These included various counts of rape, robbery, and burglary. Less than a month later, a judge handed down a sentence of death, but his days in court as a defendant were far from over. Prosecutors charged Grate for the additional 3 murders he admitted to, and NBC4 News reports that in March 2019, he pled guilty to the murders of Candace Cunningham and Rebecca Lacey. For those crimes, Grate was handed a life sentence without parole. In September 2019, Grate was in court again, this time facing multiple charges for the murder of Dana Nicole Lowry. He pled guilty to aggravated murder and earned himself another life sentence without parole, plus an additional 16 years. Grate has tried unsuccessfully to appeal his death sentence. He is currently awaiting execution.